So we have a very not so special edition of the Brother and the Man Show coming to you pre-patriotic live edition. Stay tuned for more details. But we've got an APB out on Irv. I don't know where he's at, but we put an APB out on him. Talk about a giant of the Hollywood industry and a big NFL signing on this next edition of the Brother and the Man Show.
Well, what the hell with this thing? Technology sucks. Happy July.
Wait, happy July, July 1st, 2020. We are at the halfway point of the year 2020, on record as being one of the worst years in the history of civilization. But we're still here.
And we got in living memory. I don't know if it's as bad as 1939 or 45, but it's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty poor. It's pretty substandard.
It is, absolutely. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing very good this evening. I'm especially geeked up because I have a 4-day weekend. I've been doing it. I've been bringing it. And as you probably have been as well, just because we're working remotely doesn't mean the business stops. I know some people like to get free PTO, not saying no names, but I'm not one of those folks. So I feel good. We've got big plans. They don't sound like big plans, but they're big plans to us because we haven't been able to go anywhere hardly. We're going to go for off tomorrow, going to donate some clothes, get the house ready for a little bit of entertainment on Saturday, simply because it's just going to be 6 of us total because more than 10 of us can't gather in Colorado. We're going to go for a nice hike on Friday. So I'm really pumped up about it. I'm looking forward to it. How about you?
I think we're going to watch some movies. We've been inspired to find some movies. There's quite a bit coming out, quite a bit that's worth recalling. Some of it's traditional. Hamilton's dropping on Disney Plus. Jen and I are both fans. I want to talk to you about that.
Have you gone to the live show?
We saw the live show in Chicago. If you recall, about 2 years ago during Pokergate in my house, you came over and I mentioned that we were going to Chicago to see Hamilton, and you said, "Wow, it's a little not white for you." And I, you clearly don't know me well enough. So yeah, I saw it in Chicago with my wife, and we really enjoyed it. I would have hoped to have gone back before they closed it down, but I think that it's closed down because of COVID, and it was closing anyway. And I think we've lost the boat, but I think that's okay. It's going to be on Disney Plus. We're going to watch that. My daughter and I traditionally watch a musical called 1776. That she's become a big fan of, that I grew up with. Gettysburg, the movie, the long-ass movie. And then we're going to watch Ocean's 11 and probably Blazing Saddles. So we've got plenty of stuff to watch for various reasons. I doubt we'll get to all of it, but we're going to do some movies. Jen's got homework. I think we're going to go for a drive. Things like this. Just kind of relax. My wife is in school finishing her master's degree. She's got one more class the next 2 months, and then we're going to cater to that a little bit. But everything is going well. It sounds like you have company right off screen.
Oh yeah, a little 6-year-old that's loud enough for like 4 people. So
yeah, my almost 11-year-old's the same way. So if you notice, PJ, the brother, keeps muting his microphone because we wanted to record. We can't afford to wait, but we also have the extracurricular activity off screen. So we're doing the best we can. As we said, this is all very ad hoc and for ourselves, an amateur hour. But I think our sound settings are better, at least on my end. I'm hoping that when we play this back, I don't sound like Darth Vader. The lighting is a little better on my end. Got a light over there, so I'm a little less shadowy. I think we're getting better each episode. So I'm glad that we're here. Now, what do you want to talk about tonight? And then what
number one, we're authentic. So you may hear some sounds because we're family guys and we're great people at our job. Well, at least I am. You're like fair, but that's okay. One of the things, I posed a question before we get into our show. I posed a question to this Facebook group I'm a part of. It's a wrestling Facebook group. And I asked the question, and now I know one of the shows we talked about, you're not like super into the wrestling thing, but I did have a question. I said, has the Big Show, and you know him as a giant from WCW, but
I know who the Big Show is. I'm not so disconnected.
Well, I'm just asking. Okay. I asked the question of, has the Big Show ever really been over in the WWE?
I don't know. He's won titles, right? And he's been in many main events, but I don't think he's ever had the pop. I think that the
I
Giant,
think so too.
the
Hmm.
Giant as he was called back in the day. It's a fair point. My second flirtation with wrestling, as in my first time with an adult, was when the Hollywood Hogan thing happened, and he was part of the
Hmm.
NWO, and I think that his big shtick at the time was the fact that he was the next big guy.
Right.
Andre was dead or retired. I think he had passed on at that point. And, Big Show has the same kind of physique, except he's healthy with it, and it's not going to kill him. But I think there's also quite a few big guys that didn't
Mhm.
exist back then. So I don't think his novelty holds up. He's also old. He's lost some weight. I think he's fine. But for me, he's always going to be the guy from Waterboy. So he's never gonna he's never gonna resonate. But I don't think there are a whole lot of
Right.
wrestlers that do resonate with me as being, larger than life and somebody that you want to watch. For me,
Mm.
it's Bret Hart and
The
the
Hitman.
Nature Boy. Those are the guys that were larger than life for me.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned the Water Boy, and so we're going to segue to our movies because we had a giant, in my opinion, of the film industry pass away this week. Carl Reiner. I know you wanted to speak on it a little bit. Go ahead and let me know what you're feeling, man.
Yeah, and I want to segue into something else real quick. So we're gonna talk about quite a few small things all in one little setting. But Carl Reiner, we're at home, right? It's COVID. You spend quite a amount of time just trying to find something that's different to do to kill an hour here or there. And so I went back and picked up on Netflix a show called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. I know everybody watches it, but I never have. Um, and I started, and I've been cherry picking the episodes, and some are better than others. But this last weekend, literally, I saw an episode that featured Carl Reiner, but also had Mel Brooks, and it's a really good 30 minutes to watch. The three of them, talking, and it's just a snapshot. I'm a huge fan, going all the way back to all the way back to my childhood of Mel Brooks and his work, and big fan of the producers and Young Frankenstein, and especially Blazing Saddles. I think Blazing Saddles is before its time. I think it's great today because it provokes controversy. I think all millennials should sit down and watch it and then have to deal with what's in there and then realize that the N bombs are flying around, but if you know the context, it's absolutely crucifying the white audience, the typical standard thing. I think it's brilliant. It was written by Richard Pryor, so you can call it racist if you want, but it's racist. It's not racist. Prejudice plus power is racism. There's nothing power in it, and there's no prejudice in it. It's an anti-white prejudice, which makes it a brilliant movie, and it forces you to think about. You can't take it at its face value. You have to think, and at the same time, it's slapstick. I think it's absolutely brilliant. In my opinion, the greatest comedy movie of all time. But if you work to Mel Brooks and then work your way back, you've got to include Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner was his partner. Carl Reiner really is is key and critical to quite a bit of the popular culture that we have today, at least in comedy. His son is a giant, and his son absolutely sits at his father's feet. So Rob Reiner would be nothing without Carl Reiner as an inspiration. Mel Brooks was brought up by Rob Reiner. Dick Van Dyke, who we are probably going to hear about passing on far too soon. Another person that I'm a big fan of. He was invented in large part and his show in the 60s by Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner was a genius, never a kinder man, a greater man. And so that's why we're going to watch Ocean's 11, because I
Mm.
think it's kind of almost his quintessential performance late in life, although it's 20 years old. There's the scene at the end of that movie when they're done and they're they're at the Bellagio watching the fountains and they're walking away. And the director said, you play this organically. You leave when you think your character would leave, and he's the last one to leave. He's the last person you see. And I'm looking forward to that hitting a chord. I think Carl Reiner was amazing, and he was 98. He lived a long life, and I think that we owe him a salute. So let's do that.
Yes, we do. All right.
So I'm drinking American honey tonight. What do you got?
So I have Gentleman Jack. After I first time I had Gentleman Jack, I said I would never go back to regular Jack Daniels again, and I have not. Greatest drink, and so this is for Mr. Carl Reiner. Rest in peace, sir.
All right. Well, I'll do that, and then now that we've had the drink,
Mhm.
I'm going to call you a bougie mother grabber.
You wouldn't be the first person.
Oh, can't drink the regular Jack Daniels anymore. Um,
I just can't.
so, so if you look at the screen, you'll see it says "Rest in Peace," and also it mentions something called the Sainted. So I want to kind of segue very briefly into this. I don't think we're going to get into it, but I want to mention the concept because I think we're going to review it and revisit it here in the very near future. In the old days, when we did podcasts, we had a list. We had a list of commandments. These were rules that you wouldn't break on air, and if you did, we would call you out and call you down, and you would hear audio thunderbolts would play. It was all very shticky. But I think we're going to try to re-implement that at some point here in the near future. At the same time, we had a list of people who we would not tolerate people bad mouthing ourselves or otherwise, and those were the sainted, and it was a list of people that we thought were brilliant. And then there was a contrary list, people that we would not hear propped up, people that we formally despised, and we called them the hated, and it was the hated and the sainted. And we would come across someone who was topical and say, oh, they should be on the sainted and they should be on the hated, and we would put them on there. And then after a year, I think we had a list that was 40 people long, and it was way too much, so we took it too lightly, especially the concept of hate. One person who was on the hated at the time was Hillary Clinton, and God, I wish I had her back. So, so we have to be more careful. So, you know, Carl Reiner is a giant genius, and I love him. I'm not sure he's worthy of being on the Sainted though, and that's my point. If we're going to be very careful about who we put on the Sainted and the hated, do you think he makes the cut? As much as I personally, love the guy and what he's done.
I think it probably has to be something that someone that's like universal or has had such an impact. For him, he had such an impact on our culture today just because of the work he did in movies years ago. And so he's definitely had an impact. I'm not sure how much he is known by our newer generation. And I think when you take the idea of the sainthood, you think of somebody who resonates even after death, like Muhammad Ali, or someone that died like when we were well, I wasn't even born when he died, but he just resonates with me so much as Bruce Lee. That's what I think about when I think about the saying that even beyond death, even if I never even saw this person live, they still resonate and will continue to resonate long after I'm gone.
I think that they have to be larger than life, but I think they have to also be larger than life in a very positive way, like a universally
Right.
held up way.
Hmm.
So not necessarily a benevolent, literally a saint, but somebody that we think of as being larger than life in a good way. So, Bruce Lee's larger than life. I don't know that I agree that he's so positive that it's a sainted thing.
My
Number
wife
one,
would not agree. My wife would not agree because he did cheat on his wife, but I
right.
don't hold that against him.
But people like I think that on our old list, there are some people. We should see if we can find that old list, and then we should. That's what we should do. Is we should revisit the old list and pare it down, and throw people off, and then get a refined, tighter list. And then this season, as we're nominating people, we'll be very careful. We'll nominate them. We'll come back a later episode and revisit it and see if they still hold up after we've had time.
Hmm.
And then if they do, we'll then revisit them at the beginning of the second season or the next season, and then we'll actually vote them on the list. It should be something that's very rare. These are these
Right,
are
correct.
these are Hall of Fame people. That's a way of thinking about
Hmm.
it. It's the Brother Man Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame, in some cases. But like for example.
Maybe that's what we should call it. That way you can expand the list more. The Hall of Fame, the Brother and the Man Hall of Fame, and Brother and Man Hall of Shame, right? I mean, that since we're trying to be more positive in our relaunch,
Yeah, Hall
you
of Shame is
know,
very positive.
well, it's shame, but it's not the hated.
It
Like, I
is.
mean,
It's a hated.
when you got the hated, you want to drop them out of the Met Square building.
All right, the Met Square building. St. Louis just announced this afternoon. We're all over the place. St. Louis County and City just announced this afternoon that starting on Friday, so I guess that's day after tomorrow. we're recording on Wednesday, July 1st, that we're going to have to wear masks inside public places and outside if you can't socially distance.
So, so I got a question for you then, because I had to do this, and this is spur of the moment. So, what mask are you rocking?
I've got I don't have it with me, but I've got a K95 that I bought from the local farm and garden. It was very, very clinical. It's white and made out of plastic.
And there's my dog right on
There's your
schedule.
dog right on time. You
Hey,
notice that I
Bartlett.
don't have all of this?
I know. Look at this. This is what they give me.
Very professional.
Anytime it's time for me to record or I'm to do a conference call at work, everybody wants to make noise. I got people vacuuming. I got the ice maker. I'm like, wow, where were you guys at earlier? But it's okay. Love y'all.
All
So,
right.
well, this is the mask I'm rocking because you know me. You know,
Didn't
I
they?
keep it.
Didn't those guys just lose the last ever Super Bowl?
No, it's not the last ever Super Bowl. If we play this year, we're going to win. I don't know if you can hear me, but this is how serious I take my fandom. I probably should have saved this till our last segment, but whatever.
Yeah, take that off.
There,
It's
you can
just
hear me again.
nasty. Nasty.
You know, it's whatever. But well, that's good. Mask everywhere. St. Louis needs it. But you know, as we keep on movies and everything, one of the things that I want to talk about, especially as a screenwriter, is how the blockbuster movie has been affected this year.
It's
I mean, if
amazing.
you think it is, if you think about the movies that were supposed to come out, the first big blockbuster that was supposed to drop of all the makeup movies was supposed to be Black Widow, if I remember correct. Or actually, no, it was supposed to be No Time to Die, James Bond. I believe that was dropping in April, correct?
Something like that. Yeah, absolutely. And then, Black
It's
Widow
going
is
to
right
be
behind
dead,
it, and Wonder Woman.
right?
There's a million movies that have been
What?
delayed.
Right. There are a million moves that have been delayed. Starting with, like, there are three that I was looking forward to. No Time to Die, because I love Daniel Craig as like James Bond. Like, I've liked past James Bond, not so much Pierce Brosnan, but I love Daniel Craig in that role. The James Bond movies outside of Quantum of Solace have been, in my opinion, have been excellent, especially Skyfall. And so I know Daniel Craig, if he's listened to this show, and chances are he's not, but in the event you stumble upon this, I know he wanted to stop playing the role, but man, you are just so freaking good at it that I don't want to see. I can't imagine anyone else playing it after him, and that's why I was really looking forward to that movie. I was looking forward to Black Widow because, and the reason why is because with the Marvel movies, especially when you take a movie, while maybe not political as in a political type in your face movie. It's a superhero movie, but I was imagining it would be similar to how they did the Captain America movies, especially the Winter Soldier one of the greatest comic book movies ever, in my opinion. You may not agree, but I love The Winter Soldier. I love Robert Redford's role in The Winter Soldier. I just love that movie. And just based off how they did those movies, I imagine they were going to tell the story of Black Widow from her coming from Russia, where they're going to do. So I was looking forward to that. And finally, I was looking forward to, and I know you agree with me on this. You may not agree with the last two, but
No, I
I am
like
a big
Captain America 2,
Christopher.
Captain America 3, the two Avengers movies, the Russo brothers.
Right.
Absolutely. It's great,
Okay.
great popular
I,
culture movies.
right. Right. And then the other
Right.
movie I was really looking forward to was Tenet, starring John David Washington, Denzel's son, and then Robert Pattinson from Twilight fame, who's going to go on to become the new Batman, growing up now. But Christopher Nolan directs the movie. I know you're a huge fan.
Yeah,
Christopher
anything that
Nolan.
Christopher Nolan does, I'm a big
Yeah, it's
fan.
great. But all of that has been shaken up. And so now I know Christopher Nolan's movie keeps getting pushed back. I don't know when Black Widow is coming out. James Bond, the new movie, has been pushed back until November. But even still, we don't know what the long-term effects of COVID-19 are to where you will get to see these movies. I believe a movie like Trolls and Bloodshot, which, let's face it, nobody. The best thing for Vin Diesel and Bloodshot was that, or Blood. What is Bloodshot, right? The
I
best
don't
thing
know.
that did was come out on Amazon because no one's going to go see that trash, right? That's a terrible movie. But a movie like Trolls that a lot of people would have seen, they made the decision to release that on Amazon to where you could like rent it. Basically, you could rent it for like $19.99. The cost of taking your family to a movie, right, is
So,
what you could do.
so my step godson or my honorary godson, and you know him better as Sorry,
Mhm,
and I invited his bitch ass to come on the show again, and his response
mhm.
was, It's 9 o'clock local. I'm already asleep. So I told him we would clown him and then invite him again. Consider yourself clowned. Oh my God. But
Right.
he and I had a very polite argument on Twitter about a month and a half ago when Trolls came out. And he said, aha, see, Trolls was amazing. It made major money and the theater industry is dead. And I think the theater industry is going to contract, but I don't think it's dead. Let me
No.
get through
Right.
that. I think Trolls did more money at home because of COVID than it ever would have done in the theaters because I think that people are so desperate to give their kids something to do and give themselves a 2 hour break that if
Mm-hmm.
you release something that's new and family oriented, you're going to buy it. I think that Sesame Street Goes to the Moon could come out tomorrow and they would do major bank if they had enough marketing to make sure people are aware of it and they had no competition. So I think that that is happening. I don't know that that's indicative of home movies being the end all be all of the future. The fact is there's a lot of people that own a lot of real estate. There's a lot of people that are invested, and the industry itself wants theaters to succeed. They want the theater experience to continue because without it, the industry fragments just like TV did, and
Right.
so
Exactly.
studios won't be able to tell you this is the movie because now there'll be too many options because there's too many vectors, and they'll have to start specializing to different audiences. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they shouldn't all be homogeneous, but I don't see. I think theaters will come back, but I'm maybe a third of the chains will survive, and a lot won't. AMC's in a lot of trouble. Their response to Trolls was to ban that studio's movies for forever. I don't know what the hell they're thinking doing that, but the other part of it is okay. Movies in March, April, May, June are all going to get punted to November, October, next May. But we all kind of hoped that COVID would go away in the summertime. And summer's here and the numbers are exploding. Hey, they ask you to keep a distance and use common sense and, wear a mask. And a third of us all said, America, you can't tell me what to do. And now there are more numbers in Arizona and Missouri and everywhere in between than they ever had at the height of April. I don't know what this is going to do. I don't know if we're going to have school in 6 weeks. I don't know if we're going to have school football. My daughter's a cheerleader. I don't know if we're going to have football. I don't know if I'm comfortable sitting in the stands. And until we get a vaccine, which I think we will have, and I think we'll have it by Christmas, I think everything is just kind of up in the air. So the movies that were postponed till November, there aren't going to be any movies in November, so they'll have to postpone again. And now you have a backlog. Now the good news is nobody's making any movies, so the backlog, is back ended. But what happens to novelty movies like we talked about Hamilton? That was going to be a theatrical release of August next year. Now it's coming out tomorrow. What about movies that people probably are not expecting to be good, but they wanted to see, like Bill and Ted or Top Gun? The novelty's worn off. Are they going to release those for home video? Is that going to be on HBO Plus, or what is the world going to look like, and what is the industry going to do? You're a screenwriter. So what is your guess?
So it's an interesting thing that happened to me. The interesting thing that happened to
Did
me
you just
is
punch your son?
no, I did not. I told him like, can he go over there because now he wants water and we need
Do you
to
need to take a
pause.
break?
Yeah, give me a 30-second break. Can you? Well, don't you go ahead. I will deal with him because I don't want you to stop the
We
recording.
can edit this. We don't have to show every single thing that happens unless it's a live show. Saturday will be interesting, but take your break.
I am back. I had
He's
to
back.
get my son some water. I am back. I am back. But you asked me a question about as a screenwriter. So I attended a webinar a couple of weeks ago. I'm part of the International Screenwriters Association, and one of the things one of the writers was talking about, and it looks good. Looks good. Cheers. One of the things that one of the presenters was talking about is what you're going to see, is, at least as he's been told by studios, is because of what has happened because of COVID-19, it's actually creating like a shortage of screenplays to where like they're going to run out. And it's going to be like, okay, it's not going to be where you could just do remake like you needed to. You're going to have something original. So one of the positive things for me as a screenwriter, like I don't do a lot of adaptations, except for one. I'm probably going to do a second one, but otherwise, I do a lot of original screenwriting things. So the good news about that as a writer is, hey, there's going to be more chance to get my original work shown.
So
The
COVID is
bad
creating an
news,
opportunity.
it's creating that opportunity. But at the same time, though, if your stuff's not even decent, they're not going to pick it up because everybody thinks they're great in their own head. And while I think I'm great, I did finish. I don't know if I told you this. I finished as a quarterfinalist in the Final Draft Big Break screenwriting contest
Mm,
that happened this past late 2019 in November. And so I finished as a quarterfinalist, and so that was very good and very validating for me based off the
congratulations.
screenplay. Thank you. Based off the screenplay that I wrote. So I was pretty happy about that. And so
What
I say
screenplay
all of
was it?
that. It was a screenplay. I don't know if I told you about it. It's called Beyond Forever, and it's actually a drama. And it's about this guy that loses his family in a tragic accident. And what happens is during his moment of like, he's still grieving. A contest is launched for like, hey, and I got this from the SpaceX idea from years ago when they first announced it. And that's where I got the idea. And so I finally wrote it. Is there's this contest to say, hey, we're going to colonize Mars, and we're on this contest, and we're looking for a group of people that want to leave Earth in order to go colonize Mars. And so our protagonist in the or our main character in the screenplay, because he's like, I don't have my family, I have nowhere, I don't have no reason to be here, and that's why I wrote the screenplay to say what type of person would volunteer for something like that. And then it hit me, and so that's the story I wrote. Even though he still has to deal with his family, that is like his immediate family, his own branch of the family tree, they're gone, they die,
Right.
and so it's just him. So he's got survivor's guilt, while his remaining family is trying to pick him up. He's so distraught that I know they're trying to be here for me, but if I can't have my family, then I don't want to be here. And so that's what I'm going to do. And so he spends a lot of the story trying to justify to them why he's doing it. But at the same time, in the back of his mind, it's kind of like he's looking for a reason to stay, but he doesn't know if he has it.
Do you have a third act twist?
I actually do.
Send it to me. I'll read it.
All right, will do. I will
Yep.
send it to you right after the show. See how you like it.
Very good. Okay. So, but the opportunity's there for people who are creative and prepared to step
Right.
in, but the larger industry is still kind of
If
fooled.
you're Right, because if you're still not, they're still going to be selective, so to speak. It's just that it's going to be opened up wider. And just because of what's happening, me as an African American screenwriter at that, probably even more opportunity for African Americans to get looked at outside of just the traditional, I grew up in the hood or all this stuff type of stories. Now it's like, hey, African Americans are telling different types of stories, and so they get looked at. That's good. But at the same time, if you're still not putting out something that's even quality, well, then you're still gonna run out of material to where it's like, well, we've got Pierre, he may be putting out good stuff, but Joe over here, yeah, he's writing, but we can't just put anything out there because we still have to make money. We
Yeah.
still have to put out some type of product that people want to see. And that's where the industry is going to get into some trouble because of what has happened with COVID-19. And so it is fascinating. I plan to capitalize, but I agree with you that I don't think the movie studios are going to go away. There's still something to be said about going to the movies, and then also you still have to make money and things of that nature. I don't think it contracts to the point where it's like you're just going to release it for the home, because look, and I'm not trying to be a jerk by saying this, I like Netflix movies, but there is a difference in quality of the ones even with a lot of hype that have
What
been
was the movie
released.
that came out about? I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything other than it was an action movie. Thor was in it. What was that movie with Chris Hemsworth?
Oh,
That um
I forget the Extraction or something like that.
yeah.
I forget the name of it.
So I thought that movie was really good and I enjoyed it, but I think I would have enjoyed it more in the theater. I was thinking that as I'm
Right,
watching it because it would have been. I was not totally engrossed in what I was watching. I was analyzing
right.
and not just going for the ride. And
Mhm.
it's two different kinds of experiences. And I think that at some point, I hate to echo the great orangutan that sits in the White House. But I think that he's correct in one sense that this thing will go away. And I think that it'll be around, and then suddenly it's going to be gone. And I'm not expecting it to be overnight, but I'm expecting it that over a period of a month, you're just going to see cases stop. And it'll be because we got a vaccine or it's run its course or whatever. And I think there will be a sudden release of breath that's being held. And it'll come in stages, and some people come out earlier than others. But I think there'll be a sense, whether it's in November or next April or whenever, that life can get back to normal and that they will open the theaters and restaurants and there will not be a surge after the fact. And I think that if you are able to be in business at that point, meaning you can afford to open your doors, however you survived the downtime, if you can afford to open the doors and Hollywood is there with a property for you to put on the screen, or the beef industry is there to put steaks on a plate, that you're going to make mad money because people are going to be starving for that lost sense of normalcy. Restaurants will be closed, but the ones that do reopen, they're going to make bank, and hopefully they'll that upside will be offset or not be offset by some past downside, and people can, I'm hoping that they can afford to close and tread water with some assistance until that opportunity comes and that somebody does really well. You'll do well if you can sell a screenplay, but there are going to be some studios that aren't going to survive, and there are going to be some theater chains that aren't going to survive, and
Right.
It'll be interesting.
Well, I will say this. You brought up the Chris Hemsworth movie, right?
Right.
And that may have been good. I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. Spike Lee's movie, and anybody that's heard the previous show, how I feel about Spike. I'm Da Five Bloods. That comes on the heels of Da Sweet Blood of Jesus. Spike Lee is Spike Lee, but it's supposed to be good. We'll see. The jury's still out.
We're not either of us big fans of Spike Lee, although I'm learning to respect what he's done.
Well, I mean, I respect what he's done, but I'm just talking about as like a filmmaker. I don't find Spike the best movies. The best couple of movies Spike Lee did was Do the Right Thing, Jungle Fever, and Malcolm X. His other movies,
Do the Right Thing is amazing. It's presentient. And Malcolm X, I hate biopics, and Malcolm X is the exception that proves the rule because it's genuinely entertaining and it tells a story that most people don't know. And it's fair. It's absolutely fair. If you're a white person, you do not come out of that theater feeling set upon, because at the end, we're all part of the solution. If you're intelligent at all, then it's a positive movie, which I don't get from a lot of Spike Lee movies. I feel like I'm the problem, and that's not right because I've not done anything wrong. So I'm not the problem. So if you say I am, then I've got a beef with you. But
some of his movies just don't make any sense. Like I'm still trying to figure out Crooklyn. I'm still trying to figure out Girl 6. I'm like, what did I just watch? But this isn't about Spike Lee. It's about the movie he released on Netflix. And where I'm going with this is, while those movies may end up being good, and The Five Bloods look like it may be good, and the Chris Hemsworth movie may be good, there's also, I saw the Ben Affleck and Oscar Isaacs movie, Triple Frontier, which they hyped up massively. And that did not look like it deserved to be in a theater. That seemed like it was a made-for-cable movie, is what it was. And then I saw the Ryan Reynolds movie, Six Underground, directed by Michael Bay. And you know how Michael Bay is with his big budget, like over-the-top stuff. And I couldn't imagine that being a theater either. It was like there was definitely a step down in quality for what I feel a theater movie is and what a made for cable, made for streaming service movie is. That's how I felt. And so that's where I don't want to see the industry go, because I imagine the budgets are smaller, but this wasn't even a budget thing, right?
And when they're cutting budgets, they're going to cut on the back end. They're going to cut the editing. They're going to cut the reshoots, and you're going to end up with a lesser product. Maybe not because of what was put in the can, but what's taken out of the can and put together. And then that is what I notice when I'm watching made for. But some of the movies that are made for, I haven't watched The Irishman yet, but some of the movies that are made for Netflix are decent. They get a full budget, and they let the guys that are creating do their thing. I think part of the problem with a Michael Bay movie or an Abrams movie or any movie made by a Generation X director who is not Christopher Nolan is that they're all terrible. All of these guys, all of these white
They,
guys that are
yeah,
my age and came up in my suburban upbringing don't know how to make a movie. They read
they
comic
had
books.
issues to begin with. Right. They had
Yes.
issues to begin with. I totally agree with you on that. And while Michael Bay's visuals are great, his storytelling, I mean, you would think at some point he would have evolved just a little bit on his stories.
His visuals aren't even that great. They're freaking novelty. Abrams
Right.
is the same way. They're just, and they're so derivative of their own shtick and product. And I mean, it's like they went to film studio or film class and they sat in there. And I'm not making movies, so this is me playing Monday morning quarterback from the bleachers. But this is, they went to a film class and oh, I remember the day we learned about strobes. That's definitely a thing. And
Yeah.
Abrams is going to have an unnecessary action sequence in the middle of every 10 minutes. I got to have something happening on screen that has nothing to do to advance the plot whatsoever. And I will have mystery boxes, and I'm not going to have any significant plot. And if it doesn't come together in the end, it doesn't really matter. You know, I
'Cause I'm
hate it.
J.J. Abrams and I'm cool. You
Right?
know what they
And
kind
he
of
makes
remind me
and
of?
Bay is way worse than him.
Right. What they remind me of is the fact that, like you said, they went to film school and they learned these different things. It's like they're working in iMovie or they're working in Final
Right?
Draft or Final Draft Express, and they came across something like, I'm going to use all the special features I can
Right?
inside of this because it's right there. And it's
R-
almost like it gets to the point where they're a parody of themselves. I mean, dude, do
They
we really need to see like the whole light thing with J.J. Abrams in every movie at this point?
Right. And he says, well, I'm going to do better. And I mean, you come up, it's like Rob Liefeld during comics. You come up with a list of things that he does wrong. And then you come out, and as new movies come out, and you just watch them happen. So it becomes entertaining in and of itself. Where's the strobe effect? Where's the derivative plot taken from some other writer? Where is the self indulgent action sequences that do not advance the plot? Where do we notice the plot fall down? It's
Mhm.
terrible. And Bay with the friggin', I mean, the colored. I went back and I watched Bad Bad Boys, Bad
Right.
Will Smith and
Bad Boys.
Bad
Yeah.
Boys, right? The first one, right? I hadn't seen it in 20 years,
Mhm.
and it's just like so bad. And then it's like, okay, I'm gonna take this formula and I'm gonna make these movies until they finally catch on and take my money away from me, and then I'll go to cable. He made 5 Transformers movies, and each one is worse than the last.
Oh
Okay,
my God.
all right.
Yes.
So I'm going to call you out on a question. This is instantaneous. This is
Okay.
raw, and I want to get your raw opinion because I want to get. You're going to get some hate. I'm setting you up to fail. Here we go.
Okay. Is Black Panther a great movie? So Black Panther a great movie.
And I know the answer.
In terms of cultural significance and what it did for Black people to finally be represented on screen, it is a great movie. Okay. From that standpoint, if you're talking from a pure movie making standpoint, I could have done without like the CGI rhinos during the big sequence. Wait, we're because Ryan Coogler's a very good director, right? And I'm taking into account it is a comic book movie. I am taking that into account.
It's a fair point.
But I felt when it got to that point, I'm like, okay, Ryan, you've been solid this whole time. You're doing this job, and you give me the rhinos. It's like, come on, like, wait a second.
I
It's like
watched it.
I know
I,
you got at least $175 million. What they give the budget? 200 million to film that? I'm
something.
like, it's like, come on
I
now.
I I watched the movie. I enjoyed the movie. It was better. It was better than a lot of Marvel movies that were coming out at the time.
Yes, it was.
And it is culturally significant, and it's historically significant, and it's
Mhm.
worth commenting on, and it's worth going to watch. It's
Right. It
fine.
is.
It's all, but it is not. It was not necessary to nominate for an Oscar for greatest picture. It is
No,
not a candidate for being a great film. It is not going to be historically well. It's not going to
I
be
know I'm
culture.
going to get.
It's not going to be
I know I'm gonna get
cinematically significant
right.
to be stored in the Library of Congress. Historically,
No,
culturally, it may be. But
Right.
Star Wars is not a great movie, but it is historically significant, and it has a
And
large
there's a
fan
place
base.
for movies like that, right?
Absolutely,
And
and
I think I put Black Panther in the pantheons of Coming to America, right? Well, although Coming to America is like an awesome film,
Coming
right?
to America is a great movie. It stands the
Right.
test of time, and it's
Right.
got
It stands the
genuine
test of
comedy,
time.
and
Right.
it's got a great story, and it's unique. It's not derivative of anything before.
Right. But I feel like when we're talking about the other comic book movies, specifically the Marvel movies, because they've done a great job,
In some
I
cases,
can't I can't stand it up against the Winter Soldier because I feel out
no,
of all of Marvel's movies, Winter Soldier is just
that's
wow.
exactly right. It might be the other movies that came out at the same time during Phase Three. So it may be better than Doctor Strange. It may be better than Ant Man. It may be better than a lot of
Definitely better than Doctor Strange. I did
other
not like
movies.
that movie.
No, I thought it was. It's fine. I killed 2 hours, just like Ant Man. It killed 2 hours, and it got another player on the board, and it explained who they were. It's fine. It's
Mhm.
fine. Doctor Black Panther is actually a good movie, and some
Yes.
good acting, some great acting,
Right.
and it makes
Hmm.
you think because the villain is very sympathetic. It's
Yes.
provocative,
Michael
but
B.
it's
Jordan does a great job. He
but
does.
and it's not a clear cut. Black Panther's not absolutely right, and he's not entirely wrong. So it makes you think, and it's great in that sense, or it's good in that sense. But it's not a great movie. This is not great cinema. This is not Goodfellas. This is not Godfather. This is not even Return of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Movies that are nominated for, it's definitely not the movie that I thought was amazing that came out last year that didn't win Best Picture was 1917, and
Right.
I think that movie is art. It's not art. It's compelling and it's fun, but it's not art. And it's not going to age well, at least technologically speaking. It's fine.
Hmm.
But I think that Winter Soldier, Civil War, the two Avengers 3 and 4, those are better movies, and they're not art either. Although Civil War gets pretty close. Civil War is about as good a thriller as I've seen in a long
Right.
time. Okay, so you're on record as saying that Black Panther is a horrible movie, and people celebrating Wakanda are stupid.
No, I did not say that. No,
Okay,
like
that's what
I
you
am
said.
saying though, in terms of historical significance and what it meant, because that type of representation had not been seen on screen and put some real oomph behind it. Like, we're going to take this serious, not like Meteor Man, damn sure not like Blank Man. There was actually some, we're going to do this right. And Ryan Coogler, if you know Ryan Coogler, he directed Fruitvale Station and he directed Creed, and he's a great young director, and he did a very good job with Black Panther. But I think the one thing about Black Panther that where it's a great movie throughout, and Michael B. Jordan's like dialogue, his acting was great. My only weak point about Black Panther was I hated how they skimped on like the special effects for like the big action sequence at the end. I felt like if you didn't come this far, let's go ahead complete it out, because they were doing such an excellent job.
The
But there are a lot of
biggest
subtle things about the colonialism that got missed. It was a great movie in that standpoint, and Coogler does a great job
the
of those
biggest
special effects
my
at the end
biggest
of the
beef
card.
with Black Panther and in general with Marvel movies is twofold. Number one, they do a poor job with the closing action sequence in Act Three.
Mm,
They don't know how to close a movie well, and Civil War is a great example of an exception that proves that rule. But Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, all of the Thor movies, they don't know how to end the movie. They come up with and the Black Panther fight, the two Black Panthers fighting each other. It was just it looked sticky. It looked CGI. The very end had a lot of momentum to it. It was
mhm, right.
momentous, but the actual fighting, I kind of lost it there, and that's typical for me in Marvel movies. The third act is kind of a letdown. But the other part of it is, I'd like a movie. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to have gravitas, but I'd like a movie where the plot makes some sense, right? So go back and watch Black Panther and follow the character of Claw, and he's not necessary at all. They go all this trouble to set him up, and then they just kill
Right.
him. And I guess all that it was the only benefit he served is it got his foot in the door at the border. But
Right. Correct.
it's another great acting performance and a very compelling character. His
Yeah, I
arm
could.
was kind of stupid CGI, but I liked
Yeah,
it a lot. I like
I really, I like Claw. I would have preferred more Claw. I probably would have preferred he not be killed off. Right. I think he,
I thought that was a
is he
waste
a
of a
major?
character.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, is he a major character? No, but I think he's a good supporting character that you can have, that you can utilize in a lot of different ways. So I didn't like that part. I did love that sequence when Okoye, catches like the hood of the car and stabs it with the spear and comes down. That was awesome. That was pretty cool. Like they did some pretty nice things. But no,
The other
I
character that was horrible in that movie was the pilot. I don't even remember his name, but boy, talk about a token white guy. Oh my god,
oh
totally
yeah.
horrible. So
Mhm.
anyway, all right, we put that to bed. All right, so
Now, I will say this last thing. You brought up Marvel movies and you brought up Iron Man, and I'm a big Iron Man fan, and I think I've told you this before. I am not a fan of the Iron Man movies. I feel like they wasted such an outstanding character and gave Robert Downey Jr. free will to do punchlines. And that's not Tony Stark to me. Yes, you can have some humor, but Tony Stark was a serious dude. I would have loved to see them like talk about his alcohol problems a little bit more. I definitely would have seen. I don't understand why the damn armor wars were not put on film. I
right,
don't understand that. That is the quintessential Iron Man story. And if you have ever read that and they could have done, you could have utilized Claw for that. He had nothing to do with it, but he's
relax,
introduced. You could have utilized him.
relax, relax.
I'm relaxed.
All right,
But to
so
the non-Iron Man fan, when they watch, like if my wife
relax.
or my mother, I'm relaxed. If my wife or my mother watch Iron Man, oh, it's a great movie. But they're not Iron Man fans like I am. And if I take myself outside of being a fan of yes, it's entertaining.
All
And if
right,
I
let me
didn't do
let me
anything,
take you back in time. Let me take you back in time about a dozen years. Okay, there was a fat redhead in his mid 30s and a young African American. I'm gonna call him a black guy in his early 30s and a comic book hippie, and they all worked in the same office. And they went to a Chinese buffet that was a block away during their lunch hour, and they talked about the coming Marvel movie, Iron Man 1. And at the time, X-Men movies were huge. DC movies were starting to make a comeback, I believe. I don't remember, or they had gone away. But there was a discussion about, does anybody want to see Iron Man? Because most people don't know what the Iron Man character is.
Mhm.
The mainstream, our wives, have no idea who Iron Man is. They may or may not even recognize the character. And yet Marvel has taken out $1 billion loan to start their own studio, and their coming out picture is about this character that no one's ever heard of before. It took 20 years to get the X-Men onto Main Street through cartoons and books before they could make a movie, and then it was a gamble to see if the movie did well, and it did. And Fox and Marvel at the time deserve the credit for nurturing that flower and bringing it up through the dirt to make it into a real thing. But they just said, "Oh, we're going to make an Iron Man movie," and I predicted. Me being the fat redheaded guy in the story, I predicted that that movie would do dick because I didn't think there was any interest in it for the larger non-comic book, non-geek audience, and I was wrong because Robert Downey Jr. put in a compelling performance and created a genuine character. Now, is that character consistent with the comic book source? In certain ways that you've pointed out, no. But if you had told that story cut and dry as the comic book presents it, it wouldn't have done anything. So you can give beef to the performance, but you've got to give him credit and the studio credit for having somehow found a way to make a movie that brought us this entire thing. Now, what is the
I get that.
contrary? What's the contrary example? Is Thor. Thor 1 and Thor 2. Thor 1 is a fine movie, and I like Thor 2, but it's held up, generally speaking, as one of the worst, if not the worst, Marvel movies on film. Thor 3, which is absolutely contrary to the character, is the one that everybody likes. And he's happy-go-lucky comedy guy, and he's the straight man for the Hulk, and the Hulk is a straight man for his comedy. And oh, look, it's all fun and games, and we're not going to take anything seriously. And everybody loved it. So that's now the formula. So
And I guess they do that because, okay, we don't know the characters as well, so pass them off as happy-go-lucky. Like I agree with you. I like Thor: The Dark World, to be honest with you. I really did. I guess the reason why a concept like Batman works is everybody knows Batman, and if you try to make him happy-go-lucky, no one's going to like it. But Batman, my parents, my mother knows Batman. She doesn't know. She didn't know who Tony Stark was. She just may have known Iron Man, maybe, but she didn't know Tony Stark. So I get that aspect. I just would have liked, as myself, as a fan, okay, you got your foot in the door. You've made this. Now let's hit on with our real shit that really said, like, here's what Marvel's about, because we have amazing stories
But
that will
that's
look
not even
awesome
accurate.
in film.
Your point, I don't think holds up. Your mother, my wife, my mom, my daughter, going to see a Batman movie is not something that they would have enjoyed if you think about it historically. What is Batman to the mainstream audience? Batman is 1960s shtick. Then it's 1990s major stars acting the fool. Nobody once saw Batman because the 1989 Batman because Michael Keaton was a great actor. He's held up as having turned in a great performance after the fact. They went and saw Jack Nicholson act like the Joker. When they saw the second movie, it didn't do much. And the third and fourth movie are worse for the fact. The Batman movies didn't start being taken seriously until Generation X became your primary audience, number one, and knew the character. Number two, Christopher Nolan got a hold of the property and did Christopher Nolan magic on it. All right. He took the character and he made it a ninja. He made it serious. He made it an Oscar worthy drama. And it's a combination of his directing and Heath Ledger's acting that made that character what it is in the mind's eye today. And they've managed to ruin it since. So, I don't think that Batman is larger than life and he's been around for a long time and he has name recognition. But Batman, the serious, dramatic character, it's kind of up in the air. And Superman is worse. Nobody takes Superman seriously. Wonder Woman is presented as a kind of it rides the Me Too movement, so you get some wave there. But that movie was not great, and there was a lot of comedy outside of her.
And that's the thing about Wonder Woman. And we probably got to move on. I'll just say this: we could probably do a whole show on this. Like for me, Wonder Woman, I understand why people went crazy. Oh, it's a woman, she's doing that. But hell, Sigourney Weaver, she planted her flag in that with Alien and Aliens years ago. And I personally just thought the Wonder Woman movie, like, it was better than like Batman versus Superman, because that movie falls apart quickly. But I thought that movie was very
I
average,
think
and I'm
I think we have a
I'm
future.
sure Black Widow is going to be better.
I think we have a future episode, or at least
Yeah,
discussion to talk about. I would like to compare and contrast because I'm the white guy, right? I'm the privileged guy who has everything going for me, and I am oblivious, and I don't have to deal with any of you minority types. So, from that perspective, I think it's funny to watch African Americans and their allies hold up Black Panther as a great movie, and then on the other hand, have people who are interested in women's rights and women live and the Me Too movement hold up Wonder Woman as a great movie. They came out at the same time. They both had the same kind of positivity, and yet one group
but
will clown the other. I think it's amazing, and I would love to do the
not a
compare and
clown.
contrast.
Not a clown. I would just say, if you look at how the movie was progressing, I'm like, this is an average movie. Like, I wasn't overly entertained, and I wanted to be, but when they come out with the whole thing with Ares and what they did, I'm like, what are we doing? Right? I mean, it made no sense. But
She fought Magneto. It was amazing. It's an amazing movie. Me Too told me.
right.
Black Panther is an amazing movie because Black Lives told me, and that's the
No, they
discussion we should have. Well, and it's all
should.
tongue in cheek. Nobody come after me.
Right.
Don't cancel me for that. I think that it's a fair point. I'm being sarcastic, but it is an interesting point because I can hear you, a thoughtful person, say that Black Panther. Well, you don't hold Black Panther up as an amazing picture, so I have to be clear. But there are some people that would hold one up as an amazing picture, not the other. And then you have to now begin to analyze why. Why are you holding the one up and not the other? Because in some perspectives, from certain viewpoints, they both are. you called them historically significant. They're both historically significant for similar
Correct.
reasons,
Right.
catering to
I think,
different categories
right.
of demographic.
To be clear, what like we went to the movie to see Black Panther, right? With Wonder Woman, we my wife, she was like, here's the day it's coming out, buy it, you buy it. As a matter of fact, you buy two copies because we're supporting Gal. I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. And so I was actually geeked about watching it. So it's not like I went to it like, oh, not this. I was ready to watch. I was like, I heard this kick ass. I'm ready to see this. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching, I'm like,
I was
what?
bored out of my mind, but yeah,
Thank you. That's how
yeah.
I felt too.
And
Okay.
my daughter is very pro girl power, pro this. She's
Mm,
11, right? She'll be 11 in August, so she's very much, girls can
mm,
do anything, and strong women. She looks for these things, and she's very, her Gabby Douglas is one of her heroes, so
mm,
she's very aware of it and celebrates it whenever it happens, whether it's of quality or not. And she didn't like Wonder Woman.
mm.
She didn't like it when it came out. She doesn't like it now. So
Right.
all right, we'll move on. I do want to give you one other food for thought, though, on the Marvel
Okay.
movies, going back to your original point. You said that Iron Man is not true to the source material, and there's source material that's being left unmined because they haven't catered to that character. It's too bad. Okay, that's a fair point. Maybe they'll get around to it at some point because Robert Downey Jr. is clearly done, and I suspect they'll bring Iron Man.
There's a rumor he might be coming back because Doctor Doolittle didn't do too good.
No,
So
that's true. And the Sherlock Holmes movies are crap. So,
yes.
okay. So, putting that aside, I would point out, just thinking off the top of my head, I can think of three characters in the Marvel movies that are true, or relatively true, to the source material, and I think that two of them are successful, and one is a failure. And this is indicative of the fact that your comic book characters cannot be the same characters that are on film in many cases because they have to appeal. There's a formula, and they've got to fit into the formula somewhere. So the one character that is a failure is Thor. Thor, Kenneth Branagh's Thor, was pretty close to the source material, and nobody liked it. Number two, Spider-Man is very close to material, but that character on paper is exactly the character they need on film. So it's a consistency. It's already set to be successful. The one character that is true to the source material and is an exception to the formula rule, I think, is the Captain America character from all of the movies except the first Captain America movie. And it's not even bad in the first Captain America movie, but in Civil War, in Winter Soldier, and in most of the Avengers movies, he plays he does a very difficult job of playing the Boy Scout without being boring. And I think that is a tribute to the Russo brothers and probably to a certain degree who directed the Avengers movie.
Josh Whedon did the
Josh
first
Whedon. They presented
for
him
the
in a
first two.
way that made him successful, and I think that
I agree.
speaks to both the actor and the directors, and also the people that wrote the scripts and gave them something to work with, which I think is also the Russo brothers. So, they were set up for success. We're going to put the comic book discussion and the larger Hollywood discussion to bed because we're
I
at
do want to discuss Captain America at another point
well, okay.
because
So do you have
at
a pen
another
and paper? Put it down because we need to start developing these categories. We're going to do something, ladies and gentlemen, called the Wheel of Topics. And we're
Mhm.
going to put topics on there. We're each going to introduce equal number of topics. And we're going to spin the wheel every episode. And we're going to pick a topic that we are largely unprepared for. We might have thought on, but it's going to be an impromptu topic. And we're going to discuss it. So think of your categories and think about, also future episodes. We have an episode we're recording on Saturday, which will be Independence Day, and we're going to do that one live. The intent is to make that episode positive about the country and the holiday, and we're not going to get too topical. We're not going to get too deep, I hope, but we are going to do it, and we'll see where it goes. And we're going to do that, what did we say, at 10:30 Central Time, 9:30 Mountain Time. I live in St. Louis. Brother is in Colorado, so he's Mountain Time, although he grew up in St. Louis. We split the difference between 10 and 9, so we're going to record at 9:30, 10:30 Central, and we're going to do it live. It'll be live on Facebook and YouTube, and will be then posted podcast soon thereafter. But join us. You can comment if you are a friend of the show and you want to jump in. You're more than welcome. Let us know, and we'll send you the link. But that's happening, and we're going to try to keep it positive. There's more good than bad about this country. I don't care what people say. I think
I agree.
you agree. Good. And we're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about all the great things that white people have done in the last 250 years.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
And then all the stuff we did for free, so you can have that credit. And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
final thing,
And thank you, by the
final
way.
thing you're welcome.
Casablanca.
Final thing we're going to talk about is of interest to you before we close out our show. I talked about on the lead in, there was a big NFL signing. Now, usually you get a big signing like this at the beginning of free agency. Cam Newton got cut by the Carolina Panthers, but he's with he got picked up by the New England Patriots. And so this is of interest to you simply because you are a Miami Dolphins fan. And when Tom Brady said, I'm taking my talents to Tampa Bay, everybody in the division was like, hey, it's open season now. It's our division now. Buffalo said it. The Dolphins said it. You're a Dolphins fan. The New York Jets said it, and I have no reason why the Jets said it. But then a lot of people looked at the Patriots. A lot of people were giving them credit for, hey, Bill Belichick's a great guy. Me personally, or a great coach, not a great guy. Let me rephrase that. A great coach, and he's going to get us through this. I was of the mold of, just because Bill Belichick is about to have a bad season this year doesn't mean he's not a great coach. But I was not sold on Jarrett Stidham. He played at Auburn and was a backup quarterback. That lets you know everything you need to know about this guy. And so for the Patriots to get Cam Newton kind of put a hole. I think people are still jumping the gun a little bit, but it put a hole to the talk like the division was open, because here's the reason why. I think Cam Newton, when healthy, and I think he'll be healthy this year because he's switched to a vegan diet. He's done a lot of different things in the offseason. And I feel like that in that division, the AFC East, which has not been a very strong division for a while, they can win that. They can win that division. I don't think it makes them Super Bowl contenders, because some of the same issues that they had with Tom Brady last year, they still have with Cam Newton, and the fact that their receivers suck, right? And the good thing about it, though, what Tom Brady benefited from is what Cam Newton will benefit from this year is there's not a great offense in the AFC East. And so they can rely on the defense.
So many things to talk about with Cam Newton and Brady. So we'll start at the beginning and we'll go forward through time. Okay, Miami Dolphins. This is me. I grew up in Greece. My dad was in the military. I came back in 1983, about the same time that a certain person named Dan Marino showed up on stage. And he went to the Super Bowl early and he fell down and he never made it back. And it's too bad, because he's one of the great quarterbacks of all time. And he's probably in the top three quarterbacks of his generation, along with Joe Montana and John Elway, in my opinion. And he was the passing leader for a long time, but he got to a point where he always had a quarterback, not a quarterback that was better than him, but a team that was better than him. It was Kelly and the Bills in the early 90s. And then about the same time that Jim Kelly stepped down, then Doug Flutie came out of Canada. I hate that guy. I love the guy, but I hate that he exists. The first thing he did that was great was he was playing for Boston College and threw the definitive Hail Mary against the University of Miami, who I'm also a fan of. Then he went to Canada, and then when Kelly sits down, they pull him out of their ass, and he bleeds Buffalo a little bit, and then just when he's sitting down, this rookie comes out, and Dolphins are going to have their time finally. And then Brady shows up, and if you recall, they were a nobody team, and we watched them march to the Super Bowl. They were undefeated in November, and my ex-friend, we'll say RW, I remember saying to him at the time, when you're winning, it doesn't really matter what else is going on or reputation is. Winning is winning, and they're winning. And there's no reason to think that they'll stop winning. This was mid-December, and they went on to march through, and they won the Super Bowl, and Brady's been GOAT ever since. I don't like Belichick. I definitely think they cheated. We've been caught cheating too many times, but if you're not cheating, you're not trying. That's one of the commandments, and so and it's part of the game. He got caught Can you prove it? Is it really bad? The fact is they win, and they have scoreboard to prove it. You say that it's a weak division, but one of the teams in that division went to the Super Bowl and could have won. So that's wrong. The Chiefs won. I'm talking about the year before.
Okay.
I'm coming up to speed. You get my point, though. They were in the conference championship against the Chiefs, were they not? So they were in the Final Four.
The previous season, yes, correct.
Right. Okay. So they're a good team. Brady. So that's the history, my history perspective. Brady, fine. If you go back to our original podcasts, aspect number 2, and then I'll let you talk, is I very much equate what Brady's doing right now to an unfortunate parallel with what Joe Montana did in the 90s when he should have sat down, when he was not the best quarterback in San Francisco. He should have either been a backup or become a quarterback coach, or he should have just retired and gone to the booth. But instead, he had to go play in Kansas City for a while to do nothing and to look kind of pathetic. And nobody holds it against him, and nobody recalls that hardly, but it's a fact. It happened. And then we watched Brett Favre refuse to sit down. I know you're a huge Brett Favre fan. He refused to sit down. He should have sat down, but I got one more season, 2 more seasons, and he lingered. Brady should have stayed where he was at and been the franchise and played one more season, or he should have retired. Going to Tampa Bay, I don't know what he's expecting to do. I don't know what his motivation to go there was. I don't know if it's about paycheck. I can't believe that. Maybe he's looking to prove that he can do it again from scratch. But I think that given his age, I think that he's the one that's poorer for the decision, because New England will definitely take a hit on this, but Belichick and the team that's around him, Belichick will build a new team. He'll pick the old team up and continue with it. And Cam Newton is not a shit quarterback. Shannon Sharp said, is that right? Said earlier this week that his contract with the Panthers was poor. It was insulting, and there's probably something to that. I recently watched the Zach Bezdek made me watch it. Shout out, and he said that I should watch the Michael Jordan documentary, and I keep thinking of Cam Newton and equating him to Christ, what I can't think of his name. The other guy on the team with Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and his poor contract. An MVP player, a Hall of Fame player, but getting paid a pittance because his contract wasn't renegotiated. And I think that's terrible. I think that teams will always do better if they recognize talent and reward it appropriately. We're going to tear this contract up because we value you, and we want you to know that we value you, and we want to invest in you. And so
they do it for coaches all the time.
Right. And they do it for players sometimes, and sometimes they don't. It's a case by case. Okay, so having said that, the writing is now written, and Brady's now a Buccaneer, and Cam Newton is now a Patriot. And there's every chance, without trying, that the Patriots will continue to run the AFC East, because the 3 other teams that you mentioned are all horrible. The Jets are nothing. Buffalo maybe shows up, and Miami's in rebuilding mode for the 5th time in 7 years. So I'm not expecting anything much, and I would be excited if any of those teams came out of the blocks with something significant. But other than the Wildcat thing, for 6 weeks, Miami's done nothing for a decade. It's devastating as a Miami fan. So, having said all of that, I've got nothing left. What do you got? Talk to me.
My thing about it is, speaking on Cam, well, let me start with Tom Brady a little bit.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, the reason why I didn't like him going to Tampa Bay, the reason why I did not like him going to Tampa Bay was because, number one, the division you're in, Tampa Bay was more than a quarterback away. And I don't believe in – people can say what they want about Jameis Winston. He threw for 5,000 yards last year. He threw for 35 touchdowns. He had 35 interceptions, but he got the laser eye surgery finally, right? And I don't believe in giving up on a 25-year-old quarterback that has been durable for you, has shown to be prolific. He needed laser eye surgery. So I did not like them down or going from a 25-year-old quarterback to who's going to be a 43-year-old quarterback when the season starts, who is already showing signs of decline. Tom Brady is great. I like Tom Brady. I love Tom Brady, but I can see the signs of decline already. And then, so I didn't like that. And a lot of people want to put Tampa Bay out front like they're going to be this front runner. And if you look at the teams in the NFC, the 49ers, and I'm not just saying this as a 49ers fan, the 49ers are a stacked team on defense and on offense. The best move for Brady, and this is kind of like the conflict of it because the job wasn't open. The best move for Brady, if he was going to continue to play, was to go to the San Francisco 49ers. But the job wasn't open. So what does that mean then? He should have stayed in New England and not gone to Tampa Bay, because I still don't think Tampa Bay even is the best team in the division, because they still got to contend with Drew Brees and the Saints. And the Saints are loaded, right? The Saints are probably still better than Tampa Bay. You look at Atlanta. If Matt Ryan can pop his head out his ass every now and then, they still may be better than Tampa Bay because they're loaded on offense. Carolina, they went to Teddy Bridgewater. They've got a very good defense. Now, Tampa Bay's probably better than Carolina, but Tom Brady going to the NFC South was not necessarily something that says they're the front runner in the division. So I've named to you their competition there. If you take the teams outside of the division, I told you about San Francisco, the way they're loaded. You look at how the Cardinals are making moves on offense. You look at the whole NFC West in Seattle. Like Russell Wilson, to me, in my opinion right now, is the best quarterback in football. Everybody's going to say Patrick Mahomes, but I think Russell Wilson, and the way he can put a team on his back and his smarts, he's the best quarterback in football. No disrespect to Patrick Mahomes. And like I said, I'm just talking about the NFC right now. If the Cowboys could pop their head out of their ass every now and then and the owner could get out of the way, guess what? They may be better than Tampa Bay because they're loaded. Their issue is coaching and their owner. Philadelphia, they have a good coach, but they got durability problems. I don't expect anything from Washington or the Giants. Green Bay probably needs to get a little bit tougher, but they could probably play with. The point I'm making is Tom Brady went to a conference and a division to where it's like, dude, it's not guaranteed. This isn't the competition you played in the AFC.
No, and
the AFC was top heavy.
He's also, like you said, he's lost a step. I think that he's going to go there. He's going to do nothing, and he's going to be disappointed in himself. He has to be. And, what are they thinking? The only thing I can come up with is it's a novelty.
It's Super Bowl or bust for him. That was the move they made.
They're not the team that's going to take. He's not going to put them over the top. They're not a team that's looking. It would have been better for him to have gone. I can't think of an equivalent team that just needed that leadership and some competence in the pocket that the rest of the team was just dying for. That's not what Tampa Bay is, and I don't think he's going to do anything there. I come up with a similar situation with Cam Newton, not because he's not capable of playing, and not because Bill Belichick has got a bad team or he's going to not be able to build a team, but I think that his resume is coming to an end as well, right? He's got a handful of years, and I don't think that he's going to do much there. The AFC is kinder to him. I don't think there's as many teams you talked about, the Saints, 49ers, the Seahawks, the Packers. They're all reasonable teams. Tampa Bay, maybe. Gronkowski and Tristan Wirfs are interesting, but, the Eagles. But, what do you have in the AFC? Patrick Mahomes owns the conference, and then maybe you've got Baltimore, maybe you've got Buffalo, as much as I clown them. And there's not much else over there. So Cam Newton can maybe make an impact, but best case scenario, he gets to the conference finals and Patrick Mahomes runs up and down his face. I think that he's going to also be underwhelming in his general impact. And I think that both teams will be shopping for quarterbacks this time next year or whenever the next draft is, given the way that the schedule could be all cattywampus.
But the thing about it is, the reason why I'm okay with the Cam Newton move is because, number one, it's a low risk, high reward situation. It is a 1 year deal, right, to kick the tires on Cam Newton. And if he can do his thing like he did when he was MVP and took the Panthers to the Super Bowl, then you sign him to a long-term contract. If
Yeah.
not, well, it doesn't cause anything. With Tampa Bay, it was like we're giving a 43-year-old quarterback what they give him 2 years, 60 million or something like that. And so it's like, wow, you are committing a lot to a 43-year-old quarterback to where you went to a conference and division where you may not be the best team. You may not be top five just on that side. So you may be a wild card team. Whereas on the other side, Cam Newton goes to the AFC East where there isn't a great offense and the Patriots don't have a great offense. And what you have to worry about then is, okay, if I can just win the East with 10 games, anything can happen to the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes may break his ankle, and that takes them out of the equation. Baltimore, you saw them shit the bed against Tennessee, and everything was perfect, and they got ran up out of there. The point I'm making is
I don't think that's fair. Look,
it's
I think
low risk for
I think Lamar Jackson has got plenty to deliver over
no,
time.
he did, but
I think Josh Allen
that
is
game though.
I think they did. I get that,
Right.
but I think Josh Allen. I hate to say this, but I think Josh Allen has got a lot to show us yet, as well. So I think there are teams in the AFC, and
No,
I
there
think
are, but the path is easier, right? Like outside of those teams we named that were in the playoffs last year, who's gonna Cleveland can't get their act together. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's not going anywhere. You and I both know the Jets aren't doing anything this year. Miami's in rebuilding mode. The Chargers aren't going to do anything this year. The Broncos, maybe. The Raiders are a clown show. Like, you're eliminating teams left and right to where if you put a Cam Newton in there, even if he's average, he may can get you to the wild card.
It's
And
fair
there's
point.
there's not the expectation that it's Super Bowl or bust. With Tampa Bay making the move they made, they better get to the Super Bowl both years and win it.
it's a fair point. Well,
They
Lamar
have
Jackson was Super Bowl or bust, and he busted. So I mean,
Right.
it's a fair point. So yeah, the expectations are low, and you're right. But any realistic person is going to say the same thing about the Buccaneers and Brady. I don't think anybody's expecting him to take them to the Super Bowl. He's not Michael Jordan coming back from wherever the hell he played baseball. The Barons. I don't even remember what city that was. I keep wanting it to be Memphis, but
Right.
anyway, he came back and he was the team. He couldn't do it by himself, but he could do a lot with a minimal amount of help. And Brady is not that, but neither is Cam Newton, in my estimation. The only person who's a solid can print money and is also young is Patrick Mahomes. And right now it's his league. And that's not to say that he's guaranteed to win a Super Bowl any given year. Joe Montana didn't win a Super Bowl every year that he played, but
the bottom line, he's young, right? He's
he
young.
is. It's only in his second.
He's only
well,
ascending.
Is his second
Third
year? It's his second year.
He
just finished his second year.
His second year starting, his third year total, but his
Okay.
second year starting.
Right.
But no, I get what you're saying. It's like it's his league right now. People see it, and like I said, I love Tom
It's
Brady.
definitely his
But
conference or his conference.
It's definitely his conference. That's
Absolutely.
for damn sure. It's definitely his conference. But the move Tampa Bay made, it's like, wow, you had a 25-year-old on. You probably should have invested. You're throwing that away for a 43-year-old quarterback, and the statistics don't look good once you start to get a certain age, and you're already seeing the decline. You're saying Super Bowl or bust, and you brought Gronkowski out of retirement, who already has had back issues since he was 22. It's like
It's a novelty show. When they brought Gronkowski back, it told me that somebody's not taking this seriously. If they've sold the general manager and the owner on the idea that they can win a Super Bowl, maybe they believe it. They're stupid. I think maybe they're having one last. They're going to have one more season. For the sake of it. And he wanted to go to Florida. So good for him and good for his wife and whatever. I don't know, but I don't expect anything out of them. I also don't expect very much out of Cam Newton because here's the twist: if you look at Belichick, Cam Newton very likely to start, but I don't think he'll finish the season because I think that Belichick will pull a quarterback. I don't know where from, but he's not going to say Cam Newton's my guy and I'm sticking with him through the season. He's already shopping, and as soon as he can get a fair deal on somebody who's better, younger, and he can make a franchise, he absolutely will, because that's the key to his whole strategy. He needs that quarterback. He can work around anybody, and he can manipulate the game in ways that no other coach can since Mr. Shula went to a better place. I believe that genuinely. I think he's the best quarterback of the current generation. Excuse me, best coach of the current generation.
Right.
But he's got to have that core piece, which is that quarterback. He's an old school coach in that sense. He's not going to take a mediocre quarterback and build a Super Bowl team out of it. It just isn't going to happen with him. So he's going to look for talent. Cam Newton is a stopgap. And I don't think anybody's looking at it that way. I guarantee you it's a stopgap. He may not be able to find anything. I'm not laying down a specific prediction. But when you see ESPN break in October or whenever they start playing, if ever, and say, boom, 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 big news, they just signed whoever. They just signed Patrick Mahomes. I don't know, whoever. I won't be shocked. So that's what I'll be waiting for. I also don't think they're going to play. So
yeah, I'm thinking so. They're not going to.
And what does that do? What does that aspect do to Brady? What does that do to Cam Newton? Because these guys, they're not going to get better sitting on their asses, and they're not going to get better on the links. So I'm not impressed by either of the announcements. Although Cam Newton going to New England was it's a fun, novel piece of news, considering there's very little of that out there right now.
It's got more potential upside than Brady going to the Buccaneers does. So
Brady going to the Buccaneers was a giant mistake. Have they stated? Is there any categorical statement as to why he did that? Because I haven't seen that. Did he say it was because?
Well, the thing is, like, he felt for years that he was underpaid, which he probably was, but that's the quote unquote Patriot way. But he wanted to go someplace where he felt like, okay, there are going to be these weapons and I can go do my thing. And if I have to bring some of my boys in, that's what I'm going to do. And so he decided on Tampa Bay. I probably, like I said, the best job for him was the one that wasn't open in San Francisco, because that would have been the feel-good story. I'm going back home to play for the team I rooted for. But the job wasn't open, but all the pieces were around him. And at this particular point, he's not better than Jimmy G, but it would have made for a good story. Well, that job's not open. And that's why I felt he should have stayed he should have stayed with New England. And I felt they should have been able to work that out. And they weren't able to. He feels Belichick doesn't give him the star treatment that he feels he deserves, but Belichick treats everybody the same way. So there were a lot of underlying things. Tom Brady's going to be the company man and saying, I loved every moment there, but there are a lot of underlying things there that he was like, I'm leaving. I still haven't forgiven you for when you tried to get rid of me and keep Jimmy G on the team. And that's pretty much what it comes down to.
Who am I to criticize? And every person makes their own decision. I often said, it is a wild tangent, but I often said that I lament and hate the fact that Eddie Murphy stopped making stand-up and stopped making cutting-edge movies and took a safe route, and then eventually just went away. And I lament the 25 years of his talent that we've never seen because he never produced. But it's his decision to make. So if Brady wants to go do stuff, that's fine. But I think it's a bad decision. And whenever these stars are at the end of their year, their career, they know it's a bell curve. They're going to be poor at the beginning. They're going to do really great things in the middle, and at some point, they're going to decline. And if they have a mature sense of history, they should recognize the Joe Montana entire path, the Dan Marino entire path. All of these quarterbacks that were pathetic at the end and stayed on 2 seasons too long, and they should do better. Albert Pujols was the Cardinal. He was the man, El Hombre. I mean, it literally means the man. And he could have been the next Ozzie Smith. He could have hotels and restaurants all over St. Louis. He could have been the franchise for 3 generations, but he went to the Angels for a paycheck and more respect and a better opportunity. And he's doing fine there. But he's never going to be the guy. He's going to be an Angel, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But in St. Louis, he would have, all he had to do was take a little bit less pay and be realistic with the front office, and he wasn't. So he made his decision, and for better or for worse. And I see Brady being the same way, and it's kind of sad because ultimately this next season, the season after that, if he's still around, are going to be footnotes. He's going to have no numbers. He's going to have no impact, and the Buccaneers are going to be non-sequential, not sequential. I've been drinking this too much. Non-impactful,
irrelevant, right?
Non-irrelevant. Yes.
Quarterback.
Right. So that's my take.
Well, I think that wraps up our show. Good show.
You think that wraps up our show? So the show is over. So what are we looking forward to Saturday? Okay. So we don't like to generally speak in timelines, but it's relevant. We're recording this on Wednesday, July 1st. I'm going to try to get it up on Thursday, July 2nd, and hopefully people will have a chance because we have 0 fans. So, there's a lot of audience out there, and they will come and be ready for us to do a live show, a brief live show, maybe half an hour, on the morning of Independence Day. And it'll be our Independence Day special, 4th of July. And we're going to say yeehaw and America's great. And we're going to talk about why we think that is the case. And we're going to talk it up. We're going to all praise President Trump. And then we're going to go do our own things individually with our families. So if you're seeing this, and I don't believe you're out there, but if you're seeing this, come join us on Saturday, July 4th at 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain. We will post links so that you'll be able to find it and camp out, and we will try our very best to come to you live and on time.
That's right.
And that's all I got.
No problem. That's all I got. I'll see you Saturday morning.
I will see you, and tell your wife I said hi, and enjoy your evening.
You too.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Holla, people.